Hi, my name's Lillian and I am 35 years old. I was just home from work when I saw the letter that changed my life. I had a wonderful family with a loving husband and two kids. My family was my lifeline. They were the most important people in my life. I never thought one of them would betray me in this way. My husband Nick always said, Lillian, you know you are my soulmate. I'm just so lucky to have you in my life. I thank God every day that I got such an amazing wife like you. You will always be the love of my life. I feel the same way about you, Nick. I'm so glad we found each other. I don't know what I would do without you. They were all lies, you know. I wasn't going to be Nick's soulmate, and I wasn't going to have trouble living without him. It's just so weird that once your husband does something so vile, the love you have for them just vanishes. That's what happened to me. That's what was written in the letter. The letter said, Lillian, by the time you find this letter, I will be long gone. There is no easy way to break this news. I'm in love. I always thought you were my soulmate, but now I finally found her. Unfortunately, it's not you. Ever since I came across her, I just couldn't see anything past her. Our love is just way stronger than what you and I had. My life with you and the kids just lost its shine. I cannot see myself having a family with someone who isn't her. I am sorry, but I have to do this. Please don't contact me. I won't come back. I wish you and the kids well, but it's time I live with my true family. No, he can't do this to me. He didn't just abandon his family. No, no, what will I tell the kids? God, why did you do this to me? I just kept sobbing and sobbing till there was no tears left. I sent my mother-in-law Heather a text that she needs to pick the kids up from school and keep them at her place. She didn't question me. Heather was just happy to have the kids over for some time. She was a loving grandma that way, and she was a loving mother-in-law to me. I had it all. Even my in-laws loved me like their own. I never saw this coming. I kept blaming myself for driving Nick away. All sorts of thoughts went through my head before I lost myself completely. I called Kyle, Nick's brother, and asked him to come over. When Kyle arrived, he was astounded to see me in such a state. He said, "What happened to you, Lillian? Why are you crying like this? Where's Nick? Talk to me, please." "He left me, Kyle. He's gone, and I don't know where to find him. What will I tell the kids? Oh my God. What are you saying, Lillian? You're not making any sense. He left this letter for me. I just found it when I came home to an empty house." Kyle read the letter and loudly cursed to himself. He didn't say anything to me. Kyle simply picked up the phone and started to call Nick. The calls didn't go through because Nick had blocked him. After trying his office, Kyle informed me that he needed to call his parents. I was a mess and didn't know what to do. He called them and asked them to come over. In a short time, both Heather and my father-in-law, Josh, arrived at the house. The kids were at their house with a trusted neighbor. When I showed them the letter, they said, "I can't believe this. What is wrong with Nick? How could he do this to his family?" "Lillian, don't cry. You need to be strong for the kids. I will do my best and bring him back. He needs to take responsibility for the kids. This is insane. I can't believe I raised that boy. How could he do this to you? I thought he was in love with you. We never saw this coming." Nick is a coward. He could have discussed everything with us and Lillian. Instead of facing us, he chose to run away. I tried his office. They said he gave his resignation months back. They don't know where he went. He planned this for months. Nick acted so normal all this time. I wouldn't have suspected a thing. We even had family outings these months. Was he putting up a front all this while? This is ridiculous. I'm ashamed to have such a son. He will have to face the consequences of his actions. If he loves someone else, I will accept it and leave. I don't want to be with someone who doesn't love me at all. But he abandoned his kids. They are children. How will I explain to them what happened? No one had an answer to my question. We all knew the kids would be crushed. Do you know what it feels like to know that your dad doesn't love you anymore? My dad abandoned me after divorcing my mom. He said I was just a painful reminder of his past. I don't have any contact with him anymore. I knew what it was like to feel abandoned by a parent. My mother went off the deep end and couldn't care for me. I had to fend for myself in foster care. I couldn't do that to my kids. I had to keep myself together for them. No matter what, they would know that their mother loves them. My son Jaden and Jason were only 10 years old, but they were pretty mature for their age. I knew I had to tell them the truth. After discussing it with my in-laws, I sat them down in a separate room and talked to them. They already knew something was up when they walked into the house with Kyle. I spoke to them privately and said, "I think you guys know something happened. I'm sorry, kids. I don't know how to make this easier for you, but your father has left. I don't know where he went, but he said he isn't coming back." "What? Dad just left? You can't be serious, Mom." "Mom, tell me this is a joke. Why would he leave like that? What have we done?" "You didn't do anything, kids. He left because he wants to be with someone else. I know it might be difficult for you to accept this, but it's the truth. I think it will be the three of us from now on. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something." The kids were silent. They shared a look with each other and simply went to their rooms. I know they were in shock. I needed to give them space. Kyle decided to stay over while my in-laws went back home. They promised to check up on me and the kids the next day. The entire day, the kids stayed shut up in their room. I was pretty worried about them. Kyle went and called them for dinner. They refused and said that they lost their appetite. Jaden and Jason also said that they were fine and wanted to be left alone. Meanwhile, I tried my best to keep myself together. Kyle was a huge help during this time. He called up all of Nick's friends and asked them about his whereabouts. No one knew where he had gone. In fact, everyone was pretty pissed about what he had done. They promised to call back when they had some news. The next morning, the kids came down for breakfast. The moment they saw me in the kitchen, they ran up to me and hugged me. And they said, "Mom, don't worry. We're with you. We know you love us. You are enough. I don't even want to see his face again. I'm so mad at him. He doesn't deserve you, Mom. We are here for you. If he wants to live without us, he can. We don't want him anymore." "But he is your dad, kids. I know you love him just as much as me." "We love him, Mom, but I don't think we will ever forgive him for this. If he thinks we don't matter to him, he can stay away." I couldn't believe how my kids supported me. They were more worried about me than their dad. It was true that Nick had started to neglect them since last year. We talked to him about this, but he never made time for them. I tried hard to arrange group activities, but he never took part in anything. I thought he was stressed at work and would come around soon. He loved his kids and just needed some time to gather himself. Turns out I was wrong. For days I tried to reach him. He deactivated his phone number after a week. We went to the police and let them know about the situation. However, they didn't have any idea how to find him. My in-laws suggested hiring a private investigator to track him down, but I simply didn't have the money to do so. Since I was sole breadwinner of my family, I had to prioritize keeping my family afloat. Besides, I didn't know what would happen when we finally found out. The kids were slightly hopeful that he would come back. However, that hope died after a few months. Me and my in-laws tried our best to be there for the kids. We put them in therapy so they can express their emotions better without worrying about upsetting me. Kyle also pushed for me to join therapy as well. He knew I was still struggling to make sense of the situation. I agreed. After 6 months, we tried our best to look for him again. We came to know that he had actually left with his co-worker, Shelley. Shelley was a co-worker who has always been inappropriate with him. I did tell him about my discomfort with her. I said, "Nick, I'm not comfortable with how Shelley acts towards you. She's always touching you and making passes at you. I noticed it at the company party. You need to stay away from her." "Relax, Lillian. She's a new hire and just wants some help. I've been trying to be nice so that she can feel at ease in the office. Shelley is just sticking to me because I am kind to her. She knows I'm married." I don't know, Nick. Her behavior is pretty suspicious. You need to set some boundaries with her. It's making me uncomfortable. I trust you, but she is crossing the line. You have nothing to worry about, Lillian. I love you and can't even look at anyone else like that. You can be at ease. After he reassured me, I thought that maybe I was overreacting. Turns out I was right about Shelley. But I also didn't think that my husband would leave me for her. Nick didn't know how badly he had hurt me. I couldn't even get a divorce and child support from him. I spoke to a lawyer and he said that without an address, there is no way we can send papers. I knew that he did this on purpose. He wanted to avoid paying child support for the kids. I was thoroughly disgusted with him. Living in the house was also becoming a big problem for me. It now holds a lot of bad memories. I wanted to forget what happened in that house. The kids were also keen to relocate to a different place. They wanted to be closer to their grandparents now. We talked about it and thought that moving out would be the best. The house we lived in belonged to my in-laws and was destined to be Nick's inheritance. We were paying them rent, but the money was becoming a problem. So we decided to look for a cheaper place. However, my in-laws now had a different plan. When I told my in-laws about moving out, they said, "We have been doing some thinking, Lillian. I knew you would want to move out of the house." Yes, Josh, living there is becoming a nightmare. Plus, with the little money I have, paying for the upkeep of the house is just too much right now. I'm thinking about renting a 2-bedroom apartment for us. We don't need the extra space anymore. But the rent will be a lot, Lillian. Have you thought about it? Yes, I'm going to sell my engagement ring and get some money. It will help us get by until I find a better job. I will try to save some money to buy a new house. There is no need for that, my dear. Your mother-in-law and I have talked. We're going to give you the house. Nick doesn't deserve it anymore. I would rather give it to you for my grandkids. Nick is not getting a cent from me again. No, Josh, you don't have to do that. I can manage on my own. The house is your asset. Nick would be looking forward to his inheritance as well. Oh, hush now, Lillian. Nick is getting very little from us. We have already updated our will. The house will be yours. Everything is set. I can't accept that, guys. You have already done so much for us. They just wouldn't listen to me. My in-laws said that they loved me like their own anyway. So in their eyes, the inheritance was justified. I was only grateful that I met so many good people through my deadbeat husband. We moved to a different apartment and started life afresh. I decided to put that house up for rent and use that money to rent our new place. Kyle and I spent a lot of time together. He took the kids out for activities and made up for their father's absence. Me and Kyle also started to develop feelings for each other a year after Nick left. We talked it out with my in-laws and they were pretty accepting of our relationship. Even the kids were happy and wanted to have Kyle in their life permanently. Sadly, we couldn't think about the future because I wasn't divorced. I knew I would make Nick pay for making me and the kids suffer. The day would come soon enough. Almost 2 years passed and we still didn't know where Nick was. He kept himself so isolated from his past life that we couldn't find him at all. We also didn't want him in our life anymore and didn't care what he was up to. Me and Kyle continued our relationship and the kids were also thriving under Kyle's guidance. Everything was well until my father-in-law passed away. We were crushed to lose such an important person in our lives. While Heather, Kyle, and the kids were grieving, I made all the arrangements for the funeral. They were grateful for the help. Nick didn't attend because he couldn't reach him. Heather said it's better that way. With Josh's passing, the house was transferred to my name. I and the kids decided that we should sell the property. Heather and Kyle also agreed because they wanted us to move closer to their house. We got a buyer in a very short time because the real estate market was pretty hot back then. I sold the house to a lovely couple, and then we moved into Kyle's house. He insisted, and the twins wanted to be close to him. Kyle also inherited a house from his father, and the space was enough for all 4 of us. We were settling down into our new home when someone from our past returned. Yes, Nick was back home, but He was confused about what had happened while he was gone. I got a call from an unknown number. It was Nick. He was apparently at our old house. Nick said, "Where are you, Lillian? Who are these strangers in my house? What is happening?" I couldn't believe it was actually him and got so confused that I just cut the call. Nick thought the best course would be to go and talk to his brother to find out what had happened, and that is how he showed up to Kyle's house to find me there. "Why the hell are you living here, Lillian? What happened to the house? I went there and found an unknown couple living there. What have you done with my house?" "Nick, you have been back after more than 2 years, and all you want to talk about is the house? Did you even miss your kids? Don't you want to know how they are?" "I don't care, Lillian. I just want to know about my house. Dad has already passed away. This house is now mine. Why are there other people in the house? They told me the house is sold." "So, you knew about Dad's death and still didn't show up for the funeral? How are you not ashamed of yourself? You don't even want to acknowledge your kids? What is wrong with you?" "Shut up, Kyle. I have a better life with Shelley now. She is pregnant with my daughter. I'm going to bring her to my house and live here. Now, tell me who gave you two permission to mess with my inheritance?" "Your father willed the house to me, Nick. So it was my inheritance, not yours. He did leave some money for you, but that's it. I already sold the house because we hated living there." "What? That's not possible. Dad promised the house would be mine. I will sue you. You two are stealing from me." "Yeah, bro. Good luck trying to prove that in court. We are legally in the right. If you want to waste money, go ahead. Now get lost before I call the cops for trespassing. You are no longer welcome here." "This is not the end of the discussion. You will hear from my lawyer." With that, Nick left fuming. I was freaking pissed. I felt bad for my kids since their terrible father didn't care about them at all. He was only worried about his new family. I didn't know how the kids would take it. Kyle calmed me down and decided to tell the news to the twins. We told them when they returned from school. Even they were pissed and said that they didn't want him either. They knew exactly what kind of person he was. A week later, we did receive a letter from Nick's lawyer. Heather already knew what had happened and was devastated that Nick could be so cruel. She told us that he was no longer a part of the family and she is going to disown him. That's when I told them about my plan for revenge. Using the address on the lawyer's letter, I was going to sue him for abandonment, divorce, and child support. "He will finally pay for his mistakes," I said. "It is time he faces the consequences of his actions. With the amount of pressure we put, he will be forced to agree to my terms of divorce. I will also charge him for child abandonment and neglect. Let him sue us for the inheritance. He will lose, and his lawyer will drain him out of money. Yes, I think you're right. He needs to step up and face his mistakes." "Don't worry, Lillian. We're here with you. I will help you find a good lawyer. Nick is going to pay for upsetting you and the twins. After everything is over, we are going to make a more permanent solution to our living arrangement." True to his word, Kyle helped me find a good lawyer. I filed for divorce and went for all of his money. The kids also spoke against him in court. The judge was appalled by what Nick had done. Nick was there with his pregnant mistress and was unable to defend himself. I also decided to sue the mistress for alienation of affection. Needless to say, I won. After making all payments the court ordered, both Nick and Shelley were left almost penniless. They begged me to withdraw the suit because they needed money for the baby. I ignored their pleas because they deserved it. Nick also lost the suit for the inheritance. Josh was smart enough to leave him some money in the will. Nick was laughed out of the court with his atrocious claims. He even had to give up that money to us because he had lots of pending child support. After considering for a while, the twins decided that they would ask Nick to terminate his parental rights. Nick was a little skeptical, but soon realized that the kids wanted nothing to do with him. So he agreed to sign over the papers. He didn't need to pay child support because he terminated his rights. However, whatever money I won from the suit, I used to set up college funds for the twins. I was thinking about buying a house before Kyle decided to propose. With the divorce being finalized, we were free to marry. I accepted the proposal immediately. Nick was pretty mad at us for screwing him over in all ways. However, We told him that it was his fault. He and his mistress had already started to have problems from what I have heard. I blocked their numbers after they called us several times for money. All in all, my ex and his mistress got what they deserved. Meanwhile, I get to have a new life with an amazing man who is a better husband and father than Nick ever was.